Residents of Adamawa State have applauded the steps taken by the state government by imposing a 24-hour curfew following the activities of the hoodlums. The residents, however, appealed to both the federal and the state governments to take urgent steps in cushioning the hardships being faced by citizens, although they agree that the curfew will affect businesses within and outside the state, but believes it is the right decision. Our correspondent reports that there is full compliance with the curfew with the military, police, and other security agencies taking charge of the entire state capital.
I think it's actually going to affect the business, but the life of the citizens are more important than the business. You need to be alive for you to get money. And if you have money in which you don't have security, life does not exist.
About the coffee now is not good for us, but especially if people are selling goods for the road and people that are coming to buying it, tomorrow they say there is coffee. So we don't know how we can feel good, but it's good for our safety. But we don't know what government can do about the coffee so that they can know they lock us too much.
Security is becoming worse. This is lawlessness. And when in a country whereby you see something happening like this, always state, you know that there is so much hunger in the country and so much hunger in the state. The government have done the needful by imposing the curfew on people, if not so by now.
Well, a lot seems to be happening in Adamawa State as the State Police Command again has confirmed the arrest of 25 persons involved in the activities of stealing food and non-food items in the government warehouses. The Police Public Relations Officer, Superintendent of Police Suleiman Ngoruje, says the police and other security personnel are doing everything possible to retrieve the items stolen. He assures the good people of the state that the security agencies will obey the order of the state government and will not hesitate to arrest whoever violates the directives.
You will see that a lot of items, both food and non-food items, have been carted away. And looking at our vehicles, about how many of our vehicles have been vandalized. Then the main office, which we just came in not quite 2 weeks ago, it has been vandalized. All the items destroyed, some carted away. And it's a high level of criminality.
Report reaches the command early hours of today that some hoodlums have gone down to vandalize and loot some government and private warehouses that is located within the state capital. There and then the Commissioner of Police now raised the operational asset of the command and deployed them to go down to the ladder and prevent them from going ahead to vandalize and possibly loot the warehouses. So all of a sudden that instruction has been carried out, and as I'm talking to you now, 25 male suspects were apprehended.
Professor Abiodun Adeniyi is a Deputy Dean, Postgraduate School, Bayes University, and a RISE analyst. He joins us now in the studio. Very warm welcome, Prof.
Thank you, Christian. Good to see you.
It's beginning to snowball gradually. The choked economy, the hardship, you know, everything skyrocketing. And the people are hungry. They can't wait. They are taking the laws into their hands.
Yeah. And it's very surprising that it's happening in Adamawa State, or beginning from Adamawa State. That is usually a peaceful state. You know, forget the Boko Haram.
It's in the northeast. They don't go to the farms anymore.
Yeah, that's the point actually, and very unfortunate, no doubt. And usually very conservative, somewhat very peaceful. And we're having these outbursts, you know, but we'll have to also know what triggered it in the first instance. What was the immediate cause, you know, of the mob action? I'm not talking about the long-term trigger. Of course, the long-term trigger we know could be, you know, long period of deprivation, hunger, like we know, the emergent pain in the system on account of the nascent economic policies of the new regime that they are still trying to get their hands around. But again, we just have to be careful as well so that it will not degenerate. Mob action anywhere in the world is often unpleasant. Because the temptation is to react very violently to mob action, and when there's that kind of reaction, it can lead to more violence and death. That's not what we want. On the part of the government, it's okay that the state government has declared a curfew, fine. But again, we have to go beyond that to look for the underlying causes, the immediate underlying causes, and probably deal with it, while we're also keeping our eyes on the bigger picture, which is the pervading pain in the land, the hunger, deprivation, and the emergent pains on account of the surgery being done on the economy, the ongoing surgeries, as the case could be. But again, we just hope that these things will not degenerate.
Yes, indeed, I shouldn't degenerate. Only last week, the Adamawa state government rolled out the initial palliatives, 10,000 naira, added salaries, I think, for the next 6 months to both civil servants and pensioners and the rest. But why are the palliatives slow in coming? The prices are not slow in rising. The marketers have not been slow in increasing the cost of petroleum.
Government actions often go through, sometimes
processes.
go through red tapes. Bureaucracy is often involved when government is taking any action, and you may not be able to exclude these from that regular process. So that might be responsible for the seeming delay. But what is more important is for the measures to come at all, for us to have proper implementation, which we have always said is often the bane of this kind of people-centric policies. But again, we cannot also rule out the fact that, yes, government is responding, trying to provide palliatives and trying to meet the yearnings of the people, the immediate yearning in terms of responding to the rising cost of living. But you cannot rule out the possibility of criminals infiltrating the circle of those who are peaceful, who are innocent, but are at once poor. Criminals might want to infiltrate them. We can't rule this out, and that's where the police, the agencies will also have to come in to make sure that these ones are appropriately apprehended and sanctioned, in the interest of deterrence. And glad to know that the police in Adamawa is responding appropriately. 25 are said to have been arrested. But what are they going to do with these 25? We just hope that they will probably interrogated so that the criminals among them can be identified, and those who are genuinely poor, who are genuinely hungry among them can be forgiven. Because even in some crimes, we're not justifying crime, but in some crime.
If they are forgiven, how do you take them away from, going back there to break or attack people's homes for food? Because, a hungry man is what? An angry man. Yeah. And how, with what has happened in Adamawa, how would the, various governments checkmate this? Isn't it for them to quickly roll out the palliatives?
Yeah, we definitely have to continue to push them to do the needful as quickly as possible, further to what the National Economic Council said, that these palliatives should be rolled out at the subnational level, represented by the states. Maybe it would have been okay if they were released yesterday, but here we are, being victimized by red tapes, like we acknowledged earlier on. But it is what it is, But we are also making the argument that people should not take advantage of the situation in the country so that things will not decline further. It's already bad, we are all suffering from one kind of pain or the other, but it doesn't mean that we should permit it to degenerate. And that's why the agencies will have to come in. And I was making the argument earlier that even in some crimes, people are forgiving when they steal only because of what they want to feed with, only because they are hungry. And this is not to justify crime, but again, the onus is back on the agencies, particularly the police, in interrogating the 25 apprehended, to distinguish between those who were genuinely hungry you know, and those who are criminals, the criminals should be dealt with as deterrents, while those who are genuinely hungry, it should be interrogated further, and of course, one or two lessons might be learned, you know, from their condition, which will inform further policies, further government policies in dealing with the perennial problem of poverty in the land. These are the issues that should definitely continue as we carry on in the development agenda.
Yes, Prof. In the month of June, the FAC allocation was almost ₦1 trillion shared by the 3 tiers of government. That's, you know, an increase of almost 20–30%, you know, based on savings from the removal of fuel subsidy.
Yeah.
I still say the federal government is yet to roll out its palliative. Labour has given, you know, 1 week, 2 weeks notice to go on strike. NECA is appealing that is going to cause a lot of chaos. The local governments are not even talking about palliatives.
You know, it's so funny that we have a weak local government system. Local government are practically non-existent in some states, and that's why the narrative is also being renewed that they should be strengthened, because it's an arm of government that is closest to the people. They understand the emotions and sentiments, the feelings of the people best ordinarily, you know, but most states have actually obliterated them, you know, because of maybe their smallness or such other things, you know. So that arm of government has to be revived in the implementations of some of these palliatives, you know, because like I remember what Governor Soludo said the other day, that states are being involved because states are also somewhat close to the people, so they understand the communities better, they understand the stakeholders who could be representatives in terms of distributing some of these palliatives. But local government are even more important in this matrix. Yeah. You know, but back to the funding question again. What more can we do, Christian, other than to continue to call on the government?
The citizens should challenge their governments.
Well, it's a common thing around Africa, around West Africa. We are seeing it happening in Niger. From your discussion with the early resource persons, you know how fickle-minded citizens can be. Military, they are okay. Civilian, they are okay. They are just helpless, you know, and they resign to some level of stoicism, which is very unfortunate. That's why most of the time the onus is always on the elite to think on behalf of the citizens. You know, and sometimes they don't even know what they want. The onus is on the elites, the leaders, to think on behalf of the citizens. And in this instance, we're also seeing it happening, resulting in violence, sometimes the result of actions that can even amount to self-harming. You know, these are the things that we can prevent, you know, with proper leadership, proper decision-making. But in this instance, you are arguing for quick action on account of the rising pain in the land. And that's what I'm also joining you to say, that yes, we know that government consultations are going on between LSC, between governments and all other stakeholders. But of course, decisions that will come out of these consultations should be, you know, should be promoted into action as quickly as possible, you know, so that the pains of the citizenry can be mitigated, as the case could be.
We know that less than a fortnight back, or less than that, the NEC, the National Economic Council, took far-reaching decisions to release grains, fertilizers, and the rest, you know, to the citizens, whether they are going to be sold at very, very reduced rates. But I don't know if that government decision has been taken. But let me thank you so very much, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, Deputy Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies, Bayes University, and Arise News Analyst. Welcome.